I'm never going back to Mountain Dew.
Hey everybody, I'm Jake from That's better. Let's get started. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is get all the footage for your effect. And it's important to keep your camera in manual mode and locked on a tripod so that we can get a clean plate later on. Next, you want to record your action. And for the shot that we're working on, it's just as simple as me stumbling backwards. Other examples are me landing very gracefully, jumping off a car, landing gracefully again. You get the idea. And in this shot, we also have a bunch of cabinets, countertops, and appliances around the scene. And if I was covered in lightning, obviously those would pick up some of the light. Instead of waiting until post-production to solve that issue, it's best to shine a practical light around your scene. That way all of the shadow casts are realistic, and overall, it's going to look way better. Now that we have all those shots, let's load them all into Davinci Resolve. And in the actual editing process, we're going to divide this into 4 different steps. The first one being setting up the project. The next one is actually adding the lighting elements. Third is styling them, and fourth is the final touches. So let's begin with that first one. Inside of Davinci Resolve, you'll want to set up your project, import your media, as well as your lighting effects, and I got mine from productioncrate.com. Now, to make our job easier, we're going to import all of the clips onto the edit page, stack them on top of each other so that way we can get the timing right, and then combine them and go to the Fusion page. Now, remember when I said how important clean plates are? Well, I should take my own advice because I left the soda can in the shot. Well, to fix this, we're going to use 2 different shots. So the first one is the clean plate that I shot that has a soda can in it. And then the second one is going to be a shot earlier in the sequence before I had actually placed the soda can down. On the edit page, you can go in the inspector, crop right, and increase the softness. And now we've blended between those 2 images, so that way I have a clean plate. Now, in a shot later on in the sequence, I may or may not have forgotten to take another object out, and with that one, I did not have another shot that I could just combine, so I had to go through and manually paint it out. Learn from my mistakes, get a good clean plate. Next, we want to add the main action, which is simply me just stumbling backwards. And I want to teleport away, so we'll simply trim off the end of it and then fix the rest in Fusion. And finally, I took the 4 shots of me adding some practical light to the scene. And I don't want those clips to end exactly where the main action does, because the lightning is going to take a little while to dissipate, so we want to still have that practical light in the scene. Before we go to the Fusion page, I want to add a simple color correction. Since I'm working in Blackmagic Raw, it's really flat, and all we have to do is throw in a color space transform, convert it to Rec 709, now it looks pretty good. Now instead of going through and putting the color correction on each one of your clips, go back to the edit page, copy that clip, select the other clips, and then paste the attributes, and you can select just the color correction. That way it'll save you some time, and the color correction is going to be identical between the clips. Now select all the clips, right click, and create a Fusion composition. When we enter the Fusion page, our project is going to be a little bit messy. So to clean it up, we can move them around and use the F2 key to change the node name. Connect the clean plate nodes together and merge the main action over top. For right now, I'm just going to set aside those lighting elements. We'll add those in later. Now this brings us to our next step, adding lightning. Now, I would love to go out and film all of my own lightning elements, explosions, muzzle flashes, all of that stuff. But it takes a lot of time and money, not to mention all the authorization you would need to blow a bunch of stuff up. So if you don't have the budget of a Christopher Nolan film, we can use Production Crate's elements to recreate all this, like an atomic bomb for instance. And in today's case, they offer a ton of different lightning elements, styled off of the stuff in the Thor movies. Plus, their packages are really affordable, with a monthly and annual version available. So check them out at the link down below. But once we have everything in, I'm going to start with this body lightning element. When we add it to the node graph, it really doesn't look that good. There's a couple reasons for this. Mainly, it's not following the motion of our subject. And to make this part of the job easy, make Fusion do the hard work. Add in a tracker node using the keyboard shortcut Shift Space, and then add 3 to 4 tracking points around your subject. Ideally, you want to add these points when your subject's shoulders are squared off to the camera. Set the mode to be best match, and then bring the match tolerance down for a better result. Then use the track reverse and track forward controls. When you get to the end of the clip, it's going to give you an error, and that's because our main action ends before the actual end of the clip. It's not a big deal, just ignore the pop-up. And before we apply this motion to our lightning, we need to make sure the resolutions match between the 2 clips. If we try to apply a 1080p track to a 4K clip, the motion is going to be very exaggerated. specifically twice as much. And to fix this, it's as simple as adding in a resize node after our lightning, and by default it's going to set that to the project settings, which is 1080p. After the resize node, add in a transform and connect the center X and Y to one of the individual tracking points. Then go down to the size, connect that to the tracker 1 unsteady size, and then do the same thing with the angle, except connect it to unsteady angle. Let's also come into the media in, and you can change the global in and out points to change when it actually appears and disappears. And boom, it still doesn't look right. Add in another transform node after the resize node and get the position as close as you can. Now, it's still not going to be perfect, and that's because our subject is turning back and forth. That's where grid warp comes in. This node allows us to warp an image based on a grid pattern. We can also keyframe it so that way it changes with our subject. Add that right after the resize node, and then in the inspector, change the mode to be selected, and you can change the grid X and Y size to adjust how many points we have. Now you can grab each of these points and fit it to the subject. And to animate the mesh, down in the bottom right, there's that little keyframe icon. Click that, and you can move throughout your clip, making sure it stays attached the entire time. So this is really cool so far, but not quite where we want it to be. The secret? Add in more lightning. The goal of this next one is going to be to attach it to something else in the scene, like right behind the microwave, for example. With the new lightning element, take note of the direction it actually animates on. Depending on which end you want to attach to your subject and which direction you want it to animate, simply add in a time speed node after the media in and set the speed to be -1 to actually reverse the direction it's going. And just like the last one, we can use the global in and out to change when it appears. If the lightning's lasting a little bit too long, just use that time speed node to change how fast it is. To get the orientation right, add in a transform node and just use the flip controls. That's another easy way of changing which direction it animates from. Again, make sure those resolutions match just by dropping in a resize node, then use your grid warp node to actually animate it. Attach the one end to your subject and then keep the one on the wall just locked off because that one's not really going to be moving. For right now, it's okay if those lighting elements are going in front of objects that they should be behind. We'll fix that in the next step. For now, repeat all these same steps, adding in a bunch of different lighting elements around the scene. So let's move on to the next step, styling our lighting elements. To make our job a little bit easier, we're going to create a lightning pass, which is just going to be a version that just has the lightning, none of our background clips or any of that. To achieve this, select all of the lightning nodes as well as their merge nodes, and while holding down shift, just drag them up and it's going to disconnect it from the node pipe. And if you view the last merge node, you can see it's not going to display anything. That's because we lost the background input, which was setting the duration as well as the resolution for all of those different clips. Instead of using one of the lightning elements to set our background, we want to use a background node. That's going to have the same resolution as our comp and also be the same duration. All you need to do is set the alpha to be 0, so that way it's not generating anything. Now if we look at that last merge node, you can see all of our lightning elements are on a transparent background. And if you merge that up, you shouldn't be able to notice any difference between what we just had before. To make the lighting blend a little bit better, go into each one of those merge nodes and set the apply mode to be screen. And that's going to make it look like they're all one big lightning bolt, which is kind of what we're going for. Now, I want this lightning to be green. So to change the color as well as the brightness, contrast, and that stuff, add in 2 color corrector nodes after the lightning. In the first one, bring the saturation all the way down to 0. You can also play with the gain and gamma to change how bright it actually is. In the second color corrector node, we can add back that color and even change it to something like green. Setting it up this way allows our bright portions in the image to remain white, while the glow is going to be whatever color we choose. And if you run into any issues, just go to the options tab and select pre-divide/post multiply. Next, add in a polygon node and trace out all of those foreground objects. Then connect it as a mask input into the color corrector 2, and under settings, check apply mask inverted and multiply by mask. If needed, you can add a slight soft edge inside of the polygon node. Alright, let's move on to final touches, which there is actually quite a bit to do. To start it off, we're going to use the magic mask node to separate the subject from the background. And if you're working in the free version, you can just go through and rotoscope. I actually had to do this for a shot later in the scene because I couldn't get a good enough result for Magic Mask. When I work with the Magic Mask, I like to view my original media in the first viewer, and the Magic Mask node in the second one. Then all you need to do is draw a line over the subject, and it's going to do a really good job. You can add extra lines to fill in any spots it missed, or if you hold down the Alt key, you can subtract from the mask. Then you can track it forward, pausing it to fix any mistakes it might have made. And now we want to use this to add light reflections to our subject. Add in a color corrector after the main action but before the lightning elements, and give it a green tint as well as boost the brightness. But we want this to only apply to the subject, and have the intensity affected by the lightning elements. Add in a matte control node and set the lighting elements as the background input. Then take the magic mask and apply that as the garbage input. If you right click on a node output, you can drag it into the input of another node, and it gives you that little drop down menu to choose which one you want to select. Inside of the inspector, invert the garbage map, so that way your lightning is only over our action. To make the lightning spread over the object, add in a blur node before the matte control but after the color corrector too. You'll need to connect the polygon node to it and select apply mask inverted as well as multiply by mask. Now using that blur slider, we can change how much the light spreads across our subject. The next thing that we want to do is add in light wrap, so that way our lightning blends a little bit better with the foreground. Add in another blur node with the color corrector as the input. Take the polygon as a mask as well, select multiply by mask, but this time don't invert it. Using the blur size, we can change how much light wrap we have, and adding in the color corrector node after that, we can stylize it a little bit. Once you get something you like, simply merge it up after the lighting, and you're good to go. Now let's add in that background lighting. Take each of the different lighting passes and mask out the section that is actually being affected. If you add in a new merge node, connect the clean plate as the background and the first lighting element as the foreground. Then merge up rest of them after that, and now we have a lighting pass. Add in a difference here, connecting the clean plate to the background and the lighting pass to the foreground. Playing with the settings a little bit, we can isolate the areas that are receiving that extra light. Merge that up and then add in a color corrector node after that merge. Using the difference keyer as a mask, we can change the color and intensity of that lighting. If you want to refine it a little bit further, inside of that color corrector node, go to settings and you can change the low-high values of the mask. One final step is to make this lighting fade on a little bit as the lightning starts to appear. To achieve this, add a dissolve node after the main action, and connect the magic mask as the foreground input. Now, using that slider, we can change how much of the background is actually visible. So at the start, make it fully visible, and then animate it so once the lightning's on the screen, there's no more background and we can see the background lighting pass. And we're really close to finishing this shot, but there's 3 more things that are really going to level it up. The first one is the dent node to enhance the teleportation effect. Add it in at the end and then animate the strength slider using the spline editor to smooth it out. Let's do the same thing with the camera shake node, making sure to animate the motion scale slider. To make it look a little bit more intense, you can adjust the different shake levels and add a ton of motion blur. And last but not least, I use the awesome plugin called LensMasterFlares to generate fully custom lens flares that I just mirror the animation of the shake node. This plugin is linked in the description, and if you don't want to use it, Production Crate has a lot of awesome lens flares as well. And once your effect is finished, just add in a color grade, sound effects, music, and you're good to go. If you want to learn some more awesome visual effect techniques inside of Fusion, check out my bullet hit tutorial. I also use Production Crate elements in that video, so make sure to check out the link down below and sign up today. I'll see you guys in the next video.